it's good to see you again. So today we will on 7.6, which is proportions. So, okay, if you look at two rational equations that equals to each other, such as A over B equals to D over C, then the cross product equals to each other. This is the cross product. That means A times D equals to B times C. So the cross product tells us we can multiply diagonally to get an equation with no fraction. Then we can solve for x or some other variables. See, I know you guys doesn't like fraction. If you use these cross products, you can just get rid of the fraction, something that you don't like. So such as if I have a 20 over 6 equals to x over 9. So we can use the cross product, which is 20 times 9 and then 6 times x. 6 times x. So now we have 180 equals to 6x. And then we divide by 6 on both sides so that we have x equals to 180 divided by 6 is equal to 30. Okay. So now what if the proportion has more than one terms? If the proportion has more than one terms, what we have to do, we have to put a parentheses. I emphasize a lot because when I taught in Math 111, so many students, you will be surprised, so many students, they didn't get to the final answer correct because they're missing the parentheses. So don't forget the parentheses. Then you distribute them. Okay, so for example, I have x plus 3 over 4 equals to 2 over 5. So when we have a cross product, you want to put a parenthesis for those terms as more than one terms. Put a parenthesis just in case I forgot. So you want to have the parenthesis times 5 and then 4 times 2. So I have 5 times x plus 3 equals to 4 times 2. And then I distribute the 5 inside the parentheses. I have a 5x plus 8 equals to 8. Oh, 15, I'm sorry. 5x times 3 is equals to 15. Look at me. Okay, and then what would you do? You subtract 15 on both sides. You will have 5x equals to -7. Then you divide by 5 on both sides. So x is equal to 7 over 5. Okay, this is similar if the more than one term things is in the denominator, which is 4 over x equals to 6 over 3x plus 2. Okay, we see some terms has more than one. We put a parentheses for the denominator, and then we cross multiply. We want 4 multiply the parentheses, and then x multiply 6. So that I have 6x equals to 4 times 3x plus 2. And then I distribute the 4 inside the parentheses. So I have a 6x equals to 12x plus 8. Okay, and then what? We want to move the term with x on the same side. So let's take a look. How many terms with x? We have a 6x and 12x. We want to move it on the same side. Since the right have 8, so that means I want to move 12x to the left side. So I subtract 12x on both sides. So I have a negative 6x equals to 8. And then I divide by negative 6. I simplify it, divided by 2, common factor. So I have 4 over 3 negative. Got it? So before you cross multiply in the end, when you see the terms has more than one terms, you put a parenthesis just in case you forgot, and then you distribute it inside, and then we just do the operation to solve the x. Okay. What if we have something that a little bit more complicated? Okay. The first step is what? You want to put a parenthesis, and then you can cross multiply. Parentheses, parentheses, cross multiply, cross multiply. So I have 2x minus 3 times 5 equals to 2 times what? The parentheses 7x plus 4. And then the next step is I want to distribute 5 and 2 inside the parentheses. So I have 10x minus 15 equals to 14x plus 8. And then I want to move the term with x on one side, and then the term without x on the other side. Okay, so let's take a look. I want to move 14x to the left. So I check 14x, I have a negative 4x minus 15 equals to 8. And then I want to add 15 on both sides so that I can get rid of the 15, which is move the 15 to the right. Okay, so that is equal to what? Negative 4x equals to 23. And then we divide by negative 4 on both sides. So you have 23 over 4. Don't forget the negative. Okay, so what if the cross multiply look like this one? Again, if you see the terms with more than 2 elements, we put the parentheses, we cross multiply. So I have a k plus 3 parentheses times k minus 2 equals to 24, because 3 times 8 is 24. We cross multiply. And then what? And then we FOIL, right? We have k squared minus 2k and then what? And then plus 3k minus 6 equals to 24. And then you want to subtract 24 on both sides and combine the like terms. This step is combine the like terms. So I have k squared plus k equals to, oh, sorry. And then minus 30 equals to 0. Do you understand why I'm combining the like terms? Because when you see a quadratic function, you should realize that, hey, maybe we can solve it by factor or using quadratic formula to solve it. So since we learned factor before, we use our AC method to factor it out so that I have k minus 5 times k plus 6 equals to 0, okay? So that is k either equals to 5 or k equals to negative 6. Okay, so let me recap this part. If you see some two terms multiply together, you FOIL it. After you FOIL it, since we see these power 2 trinomial, we want to combine the like terms so that they can become a quadratic function we can factor out. Okay, let's do some application problem. So such as a 6-foot tall man casts a shadow that is 3.5 feet long. And then if the shadow of a flagpole is 8 feet long, how tall is the flagpole? Is the flagpole, sorry. So, okay, what's that mean? That means if you stand in the middle of the day, right? You will have a sun. And then if you're standing under the sun, you will have shadows. So since the sun, when they reach the earth, the sun is big enough. So that means the angle with the sunlight, with the object, let's say angle alpha, should be the same to everyone or every object, even though you have a house. Let's say this is a house. And then the sunlight should come from here. This angle should also be alpha, right? If you're under same position. Okay, so now they tell you what? There's a flagpole. And the flagpole has a shadow. And we know that the sunlight should be parallel and the angle of this sunlight should be the same, also be alpha. The measurement should be the same. We know that the shadow of a man is 3.5 feet long and the man is 6 foot tall. And the shadow of the pole is 8 feet long. Okay, so what do we know? We know that the ratio, the shadow over your height, or the height of the object, of some object, human beings, or animals, they should be the same. Because the man and the flagpole follows a fixed proportion. Okay, so the ratio of the shadow and the height of the object, whatever object it is, should remain the same. Okay, so now take a look. Since we don't know, we're trying to find the length of the flagpole. So that means this is x. We don't know. We define that as x. So we have the shadow of the human, which is 3.5, over the height of the object, which is the human, 6, equals to the length of the flagpole, the shadow of the flagpole over the height of the flagpole, which is x. Okay, so this is the flagpole's shadow, and this is the object's height, the flagpole, which is equals to, the ratio should be the same, the man's shadow versus the man's height. This also writes the height of the object equals to the height of the shadow. You can also do this, you can flip them together, but it has to be together. You can't just use a shadow, the man's shadow over the height, the object's height equals to the man's height over shadow. Then this is incorrect. Okay, whatever way that you want to take. Okay, so now after we found the proportion, we can use the cross multiply to calculate the x. While we cross multiplied, we have 3.x equals to 6 times 8, right? 3.5x. So we have x equals to 48 divided by 3.5. So x is approximately 13.7 fits. Okay, so that's the length of the pole. Let's do another application problem. So in a baseball game, the home team was down by 9 points. And then at the end, at the end of the game, they only scored 6 points for every 7 points the visiting scored. What is the final score? What's the final score of the team? So we know that we have 2 teams, right? One is the home team, correct? And the other is the visiting team. So we know that they follow certain ratio, the home team over the visiting team. So what's the ratio? Take a look at these sentences. So the home team they only score 6 points for every 7 points the visiting scored, right? So that means whenever they score 6, this visiting is going to score in 7. So that means what? If the home team scored 12, that's how many 6? There's 2 6 in 12, right? So that means the visiting is going to score 14. And then if they score 18, there's 3 6 in it. So the visiting is going to score 21, correct? We know that the ratio of the home team over the visiting is always remain 6/7. Okay, so since we don't know the visiting scored, visiting team, let X equals to the visiting score. So what would be the home team? Look, the home team is what? The home team was down by 9 points. So that means if the visit team is X, so the home team should be X minus 9. That should be your home team score. Okay. And we also know the home team scored over the visit team should equals to the ratio 6/7, right? So that's how we set up the equation. And then we cross multiply them. So I have X minus 9 parentheses times 7 equals to 6 times X. And then we distribute the 7 inside. I have 7X minus 56 equals to 6X. And then I move the like terms together. I have -6. So I have X minus 56 equals to 0. And then I add 56 on both sides. So I have X equals to 56. So that means what? The visiting is, oh no, I did something wrong. Funny. 9 times 7 equals to 63. So, well, at least I realized my mistake. So that means the visiting, they score 63 points, whereas the home team is what? 63 minus 9 equals to 54. Okay, so that's the point of the home team. And here is the score of the visiting team. Okay, so I want you guys to practice more on this application problem on proportion. So the quiz, I want to do something proportion practice on the quiz. So it should be related to application problem. Okay, and the lots of you haven't done the homework yet on my open math. Some of you are still in process. Again, my homework is going to grade it by completeness. If you only finish 50%, you will only receive 5 out of 10 points. So if you haven't done it, please find some time to catch up today. Okay, have a good one. I'll see you on Wednesday.